Welcome, everyone. Today we're diving deep into a fascinating concept.
Leading is teaching.
That's it. And we've got two great sources from Fahmy Abdeen to guide us.
His book, Leading is Teaching, and his research paper on leadership in the Middle East, Organizational Leadership Role in Achieving Excellence.
Get ready, because this deep dive might just shift your perspective on leadership no matter where you are in your career journey.
One of the most striking ideas Abdeen puts forward is that great leaders are first and foremost great role models.
He actually says, every action and word is recorded in the minds and hearts of their team members.
Wow. Yeah, that's a pretty powerful image.
It really emphasizes the impact of a leader's actions.
Way beyond just giving orders or instructions.
It's about living and breathing the values and behaviors that you want to see reflected in your team.
It's true. Think about it. That constant observation makes you realize that even the smallest actions can have a ripple effect.
How a leader handles stress, their approach to feedback, even their casual interactions.
All of that shapes the team dynamics.
Think back to your own experiences. Have you ever noticed that in your workplace?
Oh, absolutely. And Abdeen really emphasizes this point.
Leaders need to practice before they preach.
And most importantly, put their words into action 24/7.
You know, that reminds me of the concept of the sensei leader.
Often found in Eastern cultures, right?
Yeah, where the leader isn't just an authority figure, but a mentor, guiding by example, embodying wisdom and skill.
Exactly. And I can't think of a better example of that than the Prophet Muhammad, PBUH.
A true leader-teacher.
His actions spoke volumes, inspiring his followers not just through his words, but through his unwavering commitment to his teachings.
It's a strong reminder that real leadership goes beyond just giving directives.
It's about truly inspiring and empowering others through your own actions.
Now, Abdeen's research paper dives into the Middle East and presents a pretty stark finding.
It says only 16% of business leaders in the region actually foster a high-performance environment.
16%, that's surprisingly low.
What contributes to this leadership gap? Well, Abdeen highlights a prevalent issue: the heavy reliance on command and control leadership.
And the surveys he cites in his paper really paint a discouraging picture.
Only 10% of employees viewed their managers as inspirational.
And a mere 22% felt confident in their boss's ability to handle challenges effectively.
That suggests a real disconnect, right, between leaders and their teams.
Yeah, and that top-down approach doesn't exactly inspire trust or innovation.
You have to wonder about the long-term consequences for those organizations.
Absolutely. But Abdeen goes even further and introduces this concept of tribal culture.
Often found in Middle Eastern organizations.
So what does that mean exactly?
It means leadership is often based on things like kinship or seniority, not necessarily merit.
You could say you rise through the ranks not because of what you can do, but because of who you're related to or how long you've been there.
Exactly, and that creates a whole host of problems.
Such as?
Well, things like micromanagement, a lack of trust, high employee turnover.
And ultimately a limited talent pool.
Makes you think, doesn't it?
Definitely. Now, think about your own careers. Have you ever encountered this kind of leadership? How did it affect the work environment? How did it make you feel? We'll dig into this deeper in the next part of our deep dive, so stay tuned.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Leading is Teaching.
It's amazing how connected these two ideas are, especially when you consider the Middle Eastern context that we were talking about.
Abdeen's research really highlights the specific challenges and opportunities for leaders in that region.
And that focus on leaders as role models really stood out to me.
Yeah, it's so true.
People are always watching their leaders.
Even when they don't realize it.
It's like that saying, right? Actions speak louder than words.
Absolutely. In a leadership role, people might forget what you say.
But they'll always remember how you made them feel.
This whole idea of leading through actions, it's compelling, but how do you stay consistent?
Especially when you've got conflicting priorities or unexpected challenges. Leaders are human too, after all.
That's a really good point. I think it's all about self-awareness.
And being mindful of what you're putting out there, even when you're under pressure.
Right. It's not about being perfect all the time.
More about striving for authenticity.
And making sure your actions match your words.
Which brings us back to that teaching aspect of leadership.
Great leaders are constantly teaching.
And not just in formal settings.
It's those everyday interactions.
Like how they handle a tough situation, the way they give feedback, how they celebrate wins.
Those are all opportunities to teach, to reinforce values, model good behavior, and inspire growth.
And it's not just about teaching the what.
You have to teach the why.
Helping your team see the bigger picture. The purpose behind their work.
how their contributions fit into the overall goals.
That sense of purpose is essential for motivation and engagement.
It really is. When people feel connected to something larger than themselves.
They're more likely to be invested and committed.
Absolutely. It's all about creating that shared vision.
A feeling of collective ownership.
That everyone's working towards a common goal.
And that's where effective communication comes in.
Leaders have to articulate that vision.
Yeah.
Clearly and in a way that inspires.
It's not just about giving orders or delegating tasks.
You need to paint a picture of the future. The why behind the what.
And invite people to be a part of something bigger.
Speaking of which, this reminds me of a time I was working on a challenging project.
Oh, really? Tell me more.
Well, we were facing some major setbacks. The whole team felt demoralized.
So what happened?
Our leader called a meeting, but not to yell at us.
Oh.
He wanted to remind everyone of the purpose of the project.
So instead of dwelling on the problems?
He shifted the focus to the bigger picture.
I see.
He reminded us why this project mattered, not just for the company.
But for the community we served.
Yeah. He talked about the impact our work would have on people's lives.
That must have been powerful.
It really was. Everyone had this aha moment.
Did it make a difference?
Definitely. It was like a light bulb went on for the whole team.
We left that meeting feeling re-energized, refocused, ready to tackle the challenges. Wow. It's amazing how just a simple shift in perspective
Can have such a huge impact.
That's the power of good leadership communication.
Connecting people to a shared purpose.
Inspiring them to take action.
Guiding them towards a common goal.
But good communication isn't just about big speeches, is it?
No, definitely not.
It's about those small, everyday interactions.
Where you can reinforce the vision and keep everyone on track.
So consistency is key.
In your messaging, both verbally and non-verbally.
It sounds like creating that culture of open communication is really important.
It is. Which brings us to another crucial part of leading as teaching.
Empowerment.
Exactly. It's not about micromanaging or trying to control everything.
It's about trusting your team.
Giving them the autonomy to make decisions.
Creating an environment where they can learn and grow.
It's about recognizing that everyone has their own unique talents and abilities.
And giving them chances to shine.
And embracing a culture of continuous learning.
Where mistakes are seen as opportunities for growth.
And feedback is given constructively.
With the aim of helping people develop.
And this ties back into Abdeen's research on the Middle East.
He argues that this command and control style of leadership,
it's holding back a lot of organizations in the region.
It's stifling innovation.
Maybe.
Limiting talent development.
Yeah, creating a culture of fear and compliance instead of creativity and empowerment.
He really challenges leaders to change their mindset.
To embrace a more collaborative and people-centered approach.
Moving away from that tribal culture.
Where advancement is based on connections or how long you've been there.
And moving towards a meritocracy, where talent is actually recognized and rewarded.
Creating a level playing field for everyone.
Where people can succeed based on their skills and abilities.
Yeah.
Not who they know or how long they've been around. You know, going back to that 16% figure.
Yeah.
It really makes you think about what's stopping more Middle Eastern leaders.
From building those high-performance environments.
What do you think are some of those barriers?
I think it's a multifaceted issue. There are historical, cultural, and economic factors at play.
But one key factor has to be
those deep-rooted hierarchical structures that exist in many organizations.
So it's not just about individual leaders changing their style.
It's about challenging the systems themselves, the structures that perpetuate those outdated leadership models.
So we need a systemic shift.
A change in mindset at all levels.
That's a big challenge.
It is. And real change often requires disrupting the status quo.
Exactly, and it won't happen overnight.
But Abdeen's research offers a roadmap.
For leaders who are committed to creating more positive and productive workplaces.
And that emphasis on leadership as teaching, that's a strong framework for driving change.
It's about empowering people, nurturing their potential, creating a culture where everyone can thrive.
Precisely. And in the final part of our deep dive, we'll explore some real-world examples.
We'll look at case studies, practical tips, and actionable strategies.
For integrating that art of teaching into your leadership style.
So, stay with us. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into leading is teaching.
We've covered a lot of ground. From the power of role modeling.
To moving away from that command and control style.
And those challenges of tribal culture.
But now, let's focus on the practical side.
How can leaders actually apply these principles in their everyday actions?
I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Well, one of the most powerful tools a leader-teacher has is feedback.
But not just any feedback.
It has to be constructive, specific, actionable.
The kind of feedback that actually helps people learn and grow.
Exactly. So instead of just saying, good job,
Which doesn't really tell you much.
right, you focus on specific behaviors and outcomes.
Can you give us an example?
Sure. Imagine instead of great presentation,
Yeah.
a leader teacher might say something like, I really appreciated how you explained that complex data so clearly in your presentation.
It helped everyone understand the key takeaways.
Exactly. It shows they were paying attention. They really understood what made it work.
It's so much more impactful.
And don't forget about addressing areas for improvement.
That's important too. But it has to be done in the right way.
In a way that's supportive and focused on development.
So how do you do that?
Instead of saying, you need to be more organized,
A classic.
a leader teacher might say, I noticed the deadline for that project was missed. Let's talk about how we can plan better in the future to make sure things are completed on time.
It's about framing feedback as an opportunity to grow, not a personal criticism,
Exactly. It's about creating that space for open and honest conversation.
where people feel comfortable receiving feedback and asking questions. Now, another important part of leadership is teaching is delegation.
But it's not just about assigning tasks.
It's about empowering people to take ownership.
Give them the autonomy to make decisions, stretch their abilities, learn by doing.
So you're not just throwing them into the deep end and hoping for the best.
Definitely not. It's about providing those clear expectations, offering support.
Being there to answer questions and offer guidance.
Right, finding that balance between giving people the freedom to experiment.
While making sure they have the support they need to be successful.
Exactly. And remember, it's not just about delegating tasks, it's about delegating authority.
Giving people the power to make decisions in their area.
To take those calculated risks and learn from their experiences.
That's how you build a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship.
It is. You want people to think outside the box and try new things.
And of course, we can't forget about continuous learning.
For both the leader and the team.
A true leader teacher is always learning.
Seeking out new knowledge, new perspectives, new ways to improve.
It's all about embodying that growth mindset. It's like leadership is like a garden.
Oh, I like that. Tell me more.
You can't just shout at your plants to grow.
Right. You have to nurture them, give them the right conditions, and then allow them to flourish.
And that's exactly what leader teachers do. They cultivate that environment.
Where learning is valued, where knowledge is shared, and everyone is committed to growing.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with this final thought.
Leadership is ultimately about empowering others.
Helping them reach their full potential.
Creating that ripple effect of positive change.
And remember, everyone can be a leader and a teacher.
It doesn't matter what your title is or where you are in your career.
Embrace that opportunity to guide, to inspire, and to empower those around you.
Thank you for joining us on this exploration of leading is teaching.
Until next time, keep learning, keep leading, and keep teaching.